All right, this is Math 103, 6.1. The first page is just definition, so I'm going to leave that for you guys to fill in from the completed class notes. But we're going to be starting to talk about some algebra. And before we can do algebra, we need to be able to combine like terms. So notice the thing about like terms is that they have to have the same variable, that's the letter, and the same exponent. So only x's can be put with other x's, only x squareds can be put together with x squareds, only y's can be put together with y's. So now what we're doing when we are combining like terms is we are adding or subtracting the coefficient, which is the number in front of the variable, and that's what's making it our simplified. So I just kind of refer this back to if that, Susie has 3 apples and Johnny gives her 6 apples, we now know that she has 9 apples. It's the same idea with x's. Susie has 3 x's, Johnny gives her 6 x's, and now she has 9 x's. So I want you to make sure that you note that never, ever change the variable, okay? So notice if it's an x, it stays an x. It does not become an x squared. And that's what I see students do. They'll take 3x plus 6x and make it 9x to the second. So we are just simplifying the number in front of it. And I kind of always reference it as if we're collecting apples. Okay, we put all our apples in a basket, we put all our bananas in a basket, we do not crossbreed and make banapples, okay? The x's have to stay in one, the y's have to stay in another, and we simplify just the coefficients in front. So what we're doing here, now we don't have to write this step, but I'm just showing you that this is what we're actually doing. So when I come over to this one, I am taking 5 and subtracting 2 and leaving my y. So 5 y's take away 2 y's leaves me with 3 y's. Now those are our basic ones where we just have like terms and we're just putting them together and simplifying. When we get down to more complex problems, what I do is I come up with a system, or you can come up with a system that works for you. I like to put things in baskets or shapes, and I put everything that is in the same basket that has the same variable or exponent. So as I go through, I will collect this x, and I will take away that 8x. And so just make sure that if you see a variable without a number, there is a 1 in front of it. That's understood. So I put all my x's in a basket. And I'm just going to show you that I can do this to kind of simplify. 1x, take away 8 x's, leaves me with negative 7 x's. Now everything has to be in a basket. So then I go to my next term and I have numbers, positive 3 and positive 12. So in my circle basket, I'm going to have positive 3 and positive 12, which makes positive 15. So I have 2 different types of baskets. I have a square basket and I have a circle basket. I have 2 different types of terms in my answer. I have an x term and I have a constant term or a number term. And that's a good check. And that's all I can do, okay? I want you to make sure and put in big black or whatever letters, this does not equal 8x. You cannot simplify negative 7x plus 15. That's all you can do with it, is you just leave it as negative 7x plus 15. Okay? All right, going to the next one. I'm going to collect all my x's. And notice that I actually circle or box the sign with it as well. And so I'm going to put this box. I have negative 3x's plus 4x. And then you can either write the 1 or you can just write the x. I think sometimes my math lab will say that it's not simplified if you write the 1, so you can just write the x. I don't care. You can do either one. So circle the number and circle the number. So in my circle basket, I will have a 2 plus 10, which makes positive 12. And then I will have negative 5y and positive 2y. So in my triangle, I will have negative 5y and positive 2y, which makes negative 3y. So again, I've got three shapes: square, circle, triangle. I've got three terms: x, number, and y's. Now you can put this in any order. I just kind of do it in the order that it's written. Whatever is first is usually my first term. I mean, there are times where you would want to put it in what is known as descending order, but for right now, that's perfectly fine, okay? Now we're going to get to using what's called the distributive property. And in order to use the distributive property, you have to take this number out in front or variable and multiply it times everything inside the parentheses. And then what's going to happen is you're going to have to then collect your like terms. I always circle the number and draw arrows because it's very likely that students will multiply the first term, but forget to multiply the second term. So as I multiply, this becomes 3t plus 9, and then I do it for the 5 that's out in front, which becomes 5t minus 10, and then I have that plus 1 that I can't forget about. Now, as I go through, I need to collect my t's, and I'm going to show you that I don't necessarily have to write that box again. If I take 3 t's and I add 5 t's to it, I now have 8 t's. Then I'm going to collect my numbers. I have 9 minus 10 plus 1, and 9 minus 10 is negative 1, and negative 1 plus 1 is 0. So you can put the plus 0, but of course that would be considered not simplified. So we would just simply write 8t is my correct answer. Now they're going to give you decimals, they're going to give you fractions, they're going to give you a lot of distribution that you're going to have to learn how to clean up. So we're going to do these next three problems, and then we've got 2 more on the other before we actually start to look at some equations. So distribute. I like to circle this negative because that is going to affect the signs. So when I distribute the 6, I get 6r minus 18. When I distribute the negative 2, I get negative 2r minus 10, and then I have this plus 10 out in front. So collecting all my r's, 6r's minus 2r's makes 4r's, and then collecting my numbers, negative 18, negative 10, and positive 10 makes negative 18. Okay? Using your decimals, you can just punch in your calculator, so you distribute. So you get 0.2x plus 0.8, then distribute this one. You get plus 1.2x minus 3.6. Collect your x's. 0.2 plus 1.2 makes 1.4 x's, and then 0.8 minus 3.6 makes negative 2.8. Now the next one, we've got some multiplication that we got to take care of again, and then we are going to have to combine like terms. So 0.9 times 2.3 is 2.07x. 0.9 times negative 2 is negative 1.8, plus 1.7 times 3.2 is 5.44x, minus, and 1.7 times 5 is negative 8.5. Collect your like terms, collect all my x's. So 2.07 plus 5.44 is equal to 7.51x. And then I've got negative 1.8 and negative 8.5, and that makes negative 10.3. Okay, so I'm going to be looking for the distribution, and I'm also going to be looking for the collecting of like terms. Now, the last two problems that we're going to do have to deal with fractions. And so we just have to remember all that stuff that we learned in chapter 5 on doing fractions and making sure that we can clear those parentheses. So I'm going to take 2/3 times x and 2/3 times 6. So 2/3 times x is just 2/3 x. I'm going to come up here and recognize that 2/3 times 6 over 1 is the same as 12 over 3, which is the same as 4. Well, that's nice because then it eliminates one of my fractions. Then I'm going to do the same thing over here. 1/6 times x is 1/6 x, and 1/6 times 6 over 1 is just going to equal 1. So in order to combine the x's, I need to get a common denominator. So I realize that one denominator is 3 and one denominator is 6. And now I realize that I need to turn this one into a 6. So that's going to become 4/6x, which I now can put together with 1/6x, and that makes 5/6x. And then I've got 4 plus 1, which makes 5, okay? So sometimes the fractions disappear, sometimes they don't. We just have to remember how we add or subtract fractions. We have to get common denominators. So now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to multiply 2/3 times 3x. Look what happens. The 3's cancel, and I'm left with 2x. And then I've got 2/3 times 9. And the 3 cancels, and that leaves me with 6. Well, that's nice. So now I'm going to go to this one. Now, this one's not going to be so nice. I'm going to take negative 1/4 times 2x. And look what happens. The 2 cancels, and I'm left with negative 1/2 x. And then I'm going to take negative 1/4 times 5, and that just equals negative 5/4. So now I've got to put 2x together with negative 1/2 x, and then I've got to put 6 together with negative 5/4. So I'm going to have to find common denominators on both of these. So I'm going to multiply this by 2 over 2. So that becomes 4/2 x. And I'm going to subtract 1/2 x, which makes 3/2 x. And then I've got to turn this 6 into a number that has a denominator of 4. So that becomes 24/4, which I'm going to then subtract 5/4. And that makes 19/4. So 3/2 x plus 19/4. And that's going to finish our combining like terms in 6.1.